All right. So just with recordings, I've got a gig of space on Zoom where I can save these recordings. So I will have to remove the recordings after they've been up there for a little while, just to make sure that I'm not exceeding my limit. I think I was up to 1.6 gig last week. So there's the last 3 recordings are still up there, but I'll probably have to drop off the power users recording and just keep the project administrators and system administrators one in addition to this. I'll set up a YouTube channel and I'll upload the recordings there so that everybody can download them in the future. I had somebody message me today looking for the older ones. They wanted to watch them again. So yeah, I'll set up a YouTube channel and let people know. The other thing with the Jira instances, in some of the previous sessions I mentioned that Atlassian's pricing model has changed. So the version that I've got will start costing me a bit of money. So I'm going to set up free versions where I can give people direct access. So I've set up a couple of those instances already. And so via your email address or your existing Atlassian ID, you'll be able to have access to them. And then that way too, I can give you system administrator access and you can start playing around with workflows and different things like that as well, trying things out. The only downside is those free ones won't have the advanced roadmaps in them. So I'll keep that in my version where I think I'll have a limit of 1 user, like just myself, but I can demonstrate roadmaps and stuff in the future sessions. So today's session is an introduction to Confluence. The last couple of weeks we've been looking mostly at Jira. So we started out with the Jira fundamentals, which is the equivalent of what we're doing for Confluence today. Then we looked at power users, which is where we were looking at JQL queries and setting up dashboards and different things like that. Then we looked at project administration, where you can configure projects and boards. And then the last one was system administration. And really that was just an introduction because system administration is huge. There's a lot in it. So we'll follow over this week and next week the same sort of structure for Confluence. Introduction today, high level kind of overview. And then we'll go through macros and some of those more complicated project or power users type data or information, and then we'll go through space administration, which is the equivalent of a project, and then system administration as well in the future ones. So I've started recording. Okay, so just running through again these the meetup series streams. Sorry, I'm full of tongue twisters today. So this is the daily users one. So it's for the Jira and Confluence fundamentals, new to Jira or Confluence and increasing familiarity, that high level overarching view. After we've done this one for Confluence and following the last one for Jira, which is going through those fundamentals, probably for the future ones, for the daily users, I'd really like you to ask your questions. And it could be, hey, can you show me that thing that you showed us last time? Or it could be a how do I type question. So I'll make it more interactive with a back and forth for the future ones for daily users. Power users, project administrators and system administrators, that'll be the similar kind of thing. After we get through the basics of each of the sessions, then it'll be great to make it more interactive so that you can ask the questions and we can demonstrate on screen. There'll no doubt be things that you will ask about that I won't have seen before or that I won't be familiar with. So it could be a particular add-on or plugin. It could be particular functionality that I haven't really used, or it could be new functionality that Atlassian are releasing. So it'd be really good to get that interaction going and perhaps a discussion in a Slack channel perhaps prior to the meetup so that you can pose your questions there and the things you'd like to see. All right, so next one there. So a high level agenda today, we'll look at the Atlassian website first. So it'll give a Confluence overview, look at the features page for Confluence, the product guide, a quick look at templates as well, and then the plugins that are available for Confluence. And then we'll get into, I haven't updated my slide, not Jira constructs, Confluence constructs. So there's spaces, pages, templates, and we'll have a quick look at macros if we've got time. All right, and I want to make this interactive. So as usual, I'll just open up my chat so I can see that there. If you've got questions along the way, or there's things, observations, or if there's things that you've come across or learnt as you've been going through Confluence, please feel free to comment in the chat so that everybody else can see it and I can talk to it along the way. All right, any questions so far? No worries. All right, so we'll dive into the Atlassian website and just share a different screen. Oops. Okay, just give me a thumbs up if you can see the Atlassian page in my browser there now. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Linda. All right, so when you go to Atlassian.com, under the products menu at the top here, there's all the plan, track, support stuff. So this is where all the main things for Jira sit. And then under the collaborate section, there's Confluence. So that's what we're going to look at today. There's also the other parts, well, other products that they have as well, Bitbucket, SourceTree, Bamboo, which is all around coding and building, and then security management. And over on the right-hand side, there's a link to Marketplace, developers. They've got a lot of content now on the Atlassian website, and I'd encourage you to have a look, even around best practices for agile coaching and what is an agile coach and different things like that. So they've got a whole lot of information other than just their products now. Okay, so we'll dive into Confluence's main page, which is this tab here. I'll share that on chat. Okay. Okay, so on the main page for Confluence, there are these links here that we'll go through. There's a link to features, the product guide, templates, some information about enterprise installations and their pricing models as well. And there's a link up here to try it free. So it's only within the last few months since COVID really took off that Atlassian has made a base version of Jira and Confluence free. And you can have both for free. And I think it's up to 10 users. There's some limited functionality with what you can and can't do in there. Limited storage, limited support, that sort of stuff. So it's just community support. But it's probably going to give you everything that you need to be able to try out the things that we're going to go through in these meetups, except for the advanced roadmap. So most other things will be there. There are some limitations. I think there's a limit of 100 notifications per day and different things like that. But worth a shot. Okay, so on this main page, the introduction to Confluence, there is an overview here. Like there's some demonstrations of how to click around and navigate on the page. So this is a good page to have a look at. It gives a highlight of templates that are available. And with the templates, we'll have a look at some of them. There used to only be like a handful of templates that came with Confluence, and then it's just exploded. There are heaps and heaps of templates available, and they're publishing templates that third parties have created as well. There's some from universities and other ones like that. So it's fantastic. There's lots and lots of different sorts of templates you can use to get pages started. There's a bit of information in here about who uses Confluence. So HubSpot, Blend, Audi, amongst a lot of others. There's even some Aussie ones in there, ANZ and different ones. Why Confluence? So there's a bit of a blurb about what Confluence does for us, and a little about enterprise and connecting to other tools as well. So Jira, if you get the cloud version and you get Confluence and Jira together, then the integration's there by default, but you can also integrate with a lot of other systems too. So Slack, for example, and you can link to Confluence pages, same for Jira. So you can comment on a Jira ticket, for example, and have it automatically put that comment in your Jira ticket, which is pretty cool. There's a mobile version. The mobile versions for Jira and Confluence were a bit poor initially, but they're continuing to develop them and they're pretty good now. And then there's some brief information down the bottom here on pricing. So there's the free version and then the standard and premium versions. So I'd encourage you to explore this page. And so I've pasted that in the chat. Then under the features page, it dives a bit deeper into workspaces and spaces, some information about your pages, creating pages, sharing them, linking them to users, how to keep your work organized. Each of these sections has got either a link to a video or another page there. So they're really good to look at. Some feedback, so you can put inline comments on pages and then you can action the comments. That's a relatively new feature in the last year or two. That's been really good. And then webinars with Confluence as well. So I'd encourage you to watch that webinar too. they're going to do a far better job of introducing Confluence than what I will. And then templates as well. Okay, and a bit more integration. So some repetition here across the pages. Then the next page is the product guide. And interestingly, when you go into the product guide, that menu option disappears, which is kind of weird. And then for enterprise and pricing, I think that menu is gone as well. Odd. Anyway, that's a bug with their website. So this goes in a bit deeper detail for guides. So it's a brief overview of Confluence, a quick start guide, using Confluence and Jira software together. And I would assume that this would go through some of the macros to pull data from Jira and different things like that. So there's a lot of good resources here on the Atlassian website. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, and that was some of the feedback that I got from the previous sessions, was people said, there's just way too much on the Atlassian site. So it's good to have a high-level introduction, I guess, as to where to go and what to look for. Confluence tutorials and demos, there's more sections in there. And then there's additional resources. So for example, a community group for new to Confluence. What's new in Confluence, administrator guides, blogs, webinars, etc. So there's a lot of good resources there. For the enterprise version, sorry, not enterprise. For enterprise, there's scaling, so you can have, I think up to 5,000 users or something like that. Same as what you can for Jira. I'm just guessing at that, but I think it's the same. And so there's a data center version. You can have Confluence hosted in the cloud or data center, etc. So it's not just for a handful of users. It's a huge, powerful system if that's what you need. Pricing, there's a pricing model here, so or calculator. So there's the cloud version. There's a tab there, and also self-managed. So for your own on-prem or server version, which may be hosted in your own data center or in AWS or something like that, but the approach is quite different. And so you can select what type you want. Free is obviously free, up to 10 users. Standard, so 10 users is $10 a month. And if you go higher than that, you start paying more per user. And a comparison down here of what you get in the different versions. So the free version, for example, is unlimited spaces and pages, which is really cool. You can't control page and space permissions to the same extent. You still get access to macros, page tree, page versioning history, and there's version history on attachments as well, which is really helpful. Template library, apps and integrations, and then for the more expensive versions, then you start to get into things like being able to archive and unarchive, anonymous access. So you may have pages that you want to just make it open to the public, so people don't have to have an Atlassian ID to be able to log in. And then there's things for the premium version like analytics and inspecting permissions if you want to try and find out why somebody in your organization of 1,000 people can't see a particular page, that sort of thing. Similar to Jira with the ability to inspect permissions. These are new ones, copying space permissions and bulk space permissions is coming soon. So with their licensing change, they've actually introduced a whole lot of new functionality. Some of it's in there now and some of it is still coming. So that's really cool. Jira and Confluence have got this new sandbox concept, which is brilliant. People used to have multiple installations or multiple versions if they wanted to try something out in one environment and then migrate it to production. So this sandbox feature is going to be really cool. And the 99.9% uptime SLA is only for premium as well. And there's a difference in storage. So 2 gig for the free version, 250 for standard, unlimited for premium, and the different support models there as well. All right, and then a bit of a blurb on hosting in the cloud versus the other, and enterprise grade security, for example, single sign-ons available and different things like that. So it's pretty cool. There's also an FAQ, so I'd encourage you to dive in there and have a look around if you want to. All right, any questions so far? Okay, cool. Nothing in the chat yet. Okay, all right. So when we dive into Confluence, I'll just close these other tabs. I've only created one space in here, and this is under the URL integrityworks demo.atlassian.net. So The one that I've been sharing with people previously was integrityworks.atlassian.net. So these are the free ones where people can have their own individual subscriptions. I'll set them up as Integrity Works demo, demo 1, demo 2, demo 3, etc. So if you would like access directly and you don't need to use that Meetup user ID, then if you let me know, I'll add you into these, and then you could have your own project set up if you want to, and I can show you how to set permissions to limit visibility just to yourself and the system administrator, and give you system admin rights and that sort of thing too. So whereas Jira breaks its work up into projects, Confluence breaks its work up into spaces. Jira is used for tracking work. So you've got a status, you've got a assignee, reporter, and a history, audit history of what's happened with the task. And it's really focused on moving something from unstarted through to being done. Confluence is for knowledge management. So the two really complement each other quite well. And so in here, we can create pages, we can add attachments, all sorts of stuff, right? So here's a space that I've created earlier. It's called Meetups. And you can star or favorite your spaces and pages and things. When you first come into Confluence and you click on this, I don't know what this GD thing is, but when you click on the home button, it'll bring you to a summary page here, and it will show you down the bottom your recent pages, so things that you've visited, pages that you've worked on, drafts that you've got in progress, so you may want to create a draft of something but not publish it yet. Often I've lost work as well, so if I lose my network connection or I've closed a tab before I've saved something, it will be saved as a draft, so this is a really handy place to come as well. And the items that you've starred would appear in there as well. Over on the right-hand side, we've got an announcements area, so the system administrator can publish announcements, and they would appear up here, and you can customize it. I haven't played a lot with that. And a feed as well. This layout is relatively, this is new. So pages that you watch, I think, and spaces that you watch, all of that would appear in here in feed, and the things that have been most popular would come up in here as well. The menus across the top. So on the top left, we've got this switch to grid, and this is where you can jump from Confluence into Jira, or you can install more apps if you wanted to do that. And you can see here under Jira software, there's Integrity Works demo, but also the other ones as well. So there's demo, demo 1, and projects. So it will keep a list of the things that you looked at recently that you might want to jump into. And I think that will be across user IDs. Ignacio, can you add me to the Integrity Works demo Confluence space, please? Yep, will do. Anybody else that would like to be added in, if you can just share your email address too, you can just put it as a private message to me if you want to, and I'll just save the chat before we finish up. I'll remember to this time, and I'll add you into Confluence and Jira and give you your own user ID. Cool. This recent page tab here, or menu item, it's the same sort of layout, same content as what you can see down the bottom here, but you can also filter and search too, which is really cool. This is a pretty new functionality that they've released in here. So there's visited, worked on, drafts, start, etc. Under spaces, it'll highlight the ones that are starred and that you've visited lately. And you can also click on viewing all spaces. So if you imagine, somewhere like ANZ could have thousands of spaces. So you can view all spaces, and you can search, I think, so you can narrow it down. So you can filter. So if you wanted to just see a particular category or whatever, you can go that way as well. People, I haven't used this a whole lot, to be honest with you, but you can, there's a new functionality, or recent, of starting a team. So you can nominate people that you want to sort of be as a collective and get notified about things, or manage together anyway, or see their activity. As a system admin, I can add people as well.
Okay, a quick one on the recent, right, wherein there was an option of adding draft start, right? So is there a way to share the work, like as for the review, or we can't?
Yeah, so something that's in draft, that's a really good question. So if you want to share a draft, probably the way that you would usually do that is to add permissions and restrictions on it. So in Confluence pages, you can either apply it to a hierarchy or to specific pages that you might want to limit who can access it. So you might want to publish something and limit it just to yourself. Or it could be, for example, I might be working on something and I want Linda to review it for me, in which case I would add permissions to the page to restrict it so that only Linda and I could look at it. And I can make it so that Linda could read it, for example, but couldn't edit the page as well. So yeah, let's have a look at permissions as we go along as well. Good call. Really good question. Okay, so it's email addresses there, cool. All right. So it's people, and under apps, this is where you can add in more apps as well. So one that I've used quite often is Team Calendars. It's a plugin. I think it's probably about $10 a month or something. There may now be a free version, I'm not too sure. Team Calendars is really cool if you've got a team and you want to see who's away when, and you want to also bring in, for example, your sprint start and finish dates and release dates and different things from Jira. You can centralize all of that in one calendar. And the calendars, you can also embed or nest calendars as well. So for a department, if you had 6 teams, you can have each with a separate calendar, and then you can have a rolled up higher level view as well. So you might want to see as a department who's going to be away when. So Team Calendars is a really cool plugin. And there are many, many more, hundreds, I would say. Okay, let's get underway with, let's create a space. Any questions before we go any further? No, cool. Okay, so what is a space? A space is a home for all your content. So you can create as many spaces as you like, and it's just a way to sort of farm off the pages within Confluence or group them into areas. And you can apply different permissions to spaces as well. So it might be that you might have a space that's limited to one team, especially in a place that might have thousands of spaces. You might want to narrow down who can see what space so that it doesn't become unwieldy for people. Could also be that you might have a client and you might want that client to see a particular space or a few different spaces, but not other spaces as well. So you can add documents, files, photos to your space using pages and keep them organized in a hierarchy. And there's a blog that you can have on a space as well to share news and make announcements. And they keep adding more templates to spaces even as well. So you can have a blank space where you've got nothing. Documentation, which is sort of geared towards technical documentation and new products, etc. These are just templates. And so if I create a documentation space and then I want to make it look more like a team space, for example, and we'll go through and we'll create these different ones, you can modify the space and you can copy pages between spaces and different things too. So, so it's all pretty cool. So let's create a blank one first. And we're just going to call this blank space. And BS is not a really good one. Let's call this blank. I can type properly. Okay, so similar to Jira, we have the concept of a name. So in Jira, you have a project name. Here we've got a space name. And we also have the concept of a key. So in Jira, we have a project key, and that's used for each of the issues in Jira to uniquely identify them. So if I had a blank project in Jira, which wouldn't make any sense, but we would have maybe Jira issues in there called blank 123, or we had Mystic Bird or whatever it's called, historical bird, ancient bird, something like that. And so that would be AB 123, for example. Okay. Now, space permissions. I don't know whether this is disabled because it's a free version or whether it's because I haven't set up permissions elsewhere in the space as defaults. I'm going to hazard a guess that it's a free one, so I might try this out later. Just making notes for myself here as we go. Space. Okay, so let's create a blank one. And when we create it, all we get is just a blank page, right? There's a couple of information boxes and stuff on here, but not a whole lot. When we create this page, I guess the anatomy of a page, on the left-hand side, there's a navigation pane here. We can add in shortcuts if we want to. There's a link here if I've got administration settings. of permissions, then I've got a link to space settings. There's a link to the blog. I can add shortcuts. So similarly in Jira, how we created a link to a page. Let me just copy the URL. We can add shortcuts either to Jira or other pages in Confluence or URLs. So let's just put this here as Atlassian. We add a shortcut. And if I wanted to, I think I can even add in emojis here. So let's put that in, save it. I think I forgot to save it. Okay. Let's try it again. So if I go add shortcut and now go save. Really, they should have that save button disabled unless you've if you haven't added a shortcut. But anyway, okay. Then we get a shortcut there. If you click on it, it should open in a new tab. And that's how you add shortcuts there. The pages as we create them will appear down here. So let's go back and just play with a couple of the other spaces for a minute. Let's add another space, create one. And so I can create a space if I go to view all spaces. There's a button down the bottom here to create space. There's another one over here, create a space. If I click on the home button, there's a button here to create spaces as well. So you can create space from anywhere. Well, not literally anyway, but close. There's a documentation space, so let's have a look at that one. We'll call that documentation, got a space key of doc, that's okay. And when we create that one, got a little bit more info on the page here. And we get a getting started page as well. It's got some instructions on how to do things. Through Confluence and through Jira as well, they've now got a lot of these pop-ups that come up. So it'll have recently released features, for example, tips and tricks, requests for feedback and different things like that. So that's all cool. Okay. All right, so a question there from Ignacio. So how do you import a template into Confluence? That's a really good question. So two options usually, you can create your own or import as administrator. I've never imported a template, that'd be really cool to do. And you can create templates and modify blueprints and different things as well. I'm not sure if that has changed recently though with all these plethora of blueprints or templates that they've got in use.
So Paul, yeah, my question originally, and Rebecca answered it, I said, can you use a custom template rather than use presented ones by Atlassian? And she said you can. So my next question was, yeah, how do you do it? That's what I
So how do you? Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's actually on the page, sorry, that you're on the moment, Paul. You can see it has making a template under related pages. So it has to do a step-by-step guide.
Awesome. Okay. So this is for creating one and for importing one. Have you imported one before, Rebecca?
I haven't, but I do know that as an administrator, you can import them on a server-based at Confluence. I haven't tried with a hosted version.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
Thank you.
So that's good. Thanks, Rebecca.
No problem.
Okay, import templates. So I might add that to one of the future sessions as well. I'll do my own homework as well and work out how to import. That's really cool. Thank you. Okay. So it's making a template there that we're looking at. So this is a documentation space, and let's go and create space again. I'll create a different one. Software project space. This will probably ask me, to select a project in Jira that I want to connect to. So let's go with, we'll just go with Ancient Circle for a start, and I'll create that one. So that will set up the integration between Jira and Confluence. And spot on, Linda. Yes, we learn from each other. That's the awesome thing about this. Importing templates. Thanks, Nikhil. That's brilliant. I might get you to, as your homework, Nikhil, if you can try that out. And I'd really love, if anybody wants to, for members to demo stuff. So it doesn't have to be just always me talking and stuff, right? I'd love it for this meetup to be interactive, as I was saying earlier, so people have an opportunity to present and share stuff. That'd be really cool. Okay, so when we create a software one, then we get templates for retrospectives, and this is a summary page, decision logs, file lists, product requirements, and again, I'm recording this so you can play this back slower later if you wanted to, and meeting notes as well. These are sort of a placeholder summary page, and we can see over here there's a create meeting note, for example. If I create that, I'll click on that, it'll just tell me a bit about meeting notes. So we click create. And again, this is another template, right? So it'll pre-populate our date. Again, giving me some more information here about new width control. So Confluence pages used to always be left justified. Now they're centered and you can make them full width or whatever. So there's new functionality there. You can tag people. If you tag people in a page, they'll get an email when the page is published or edited and saved again. You've got to be careful with that. Similar to Jira notifications, if people get too many emails, it's not valuable any longer. And you've got an option. If I wanted to publish the first time, and then if I edit the page, there'll be an option to publish without notifications. On the old UI for Confluence, there was a tick box down the bottom to notify watchers, and you could untick that one. The way to tell whether you're looking at the new UI for Confluence or the old one, if the publish button is up on the top right-hand corner, you're looking at the new UI. If it's down on the bottom right corner, it's the old UI. And there'll now be, when you're looking at old pages, there'll be an invitation floating down the bottom to convert the page to the new UI. I'd say at some point they're going to retire the old UI, but for now, it's still both work. Under this meeting notes template, there's other sections here. You can define goals for the meeting, discussion topics, action items, decisions. These are really good, and they serve as the agenda and the meeting minutes as well, all in one place. And you can, if we publish this, you can export, say for any page, when it loads. You can export as PDF or as a Word document. You can integrate with Slack. I haven't done that, so if anybody's done that, that'd be really awesome to see for notifications, etc. But quite often, if you need to do a status report, for example, or you've got a meeting like a steering committee meeting or something, you might want to export your meeting minutes as a PDF if people are a bit reluctant to use Confluence. Some people still like emails with attachments, so that provision's there. Okay, so that's meeting minutes. Now, if I go meeting notes, if I go back to the summary page, then it's automatically listed in here. And this is using a Confluence macro. If I look at this page, we can see there's a couple of macros here. There's incomplete tasks from meetings, that's one macro. And there's another one here, content report table, which is another macro. And creating from a template, that's yet another macro. So Confluence has got a whole suite of different macros available, and they're really powerful and really cool. So when we're editing a page, let's have a look at the macros. So up the top here, there's a plus button with a drop down. And this will list here the commonly used macros. So there's inserting files and images, inserting a link, could be to a web page or another Confluence page or a Jira instance or something. You can insert a symbol, an emoticon. You can insert markup. So if you wanted to put wiki markup in, I think that still works. So it was a bit clunky there for a little while. You can put in a horizontal rule. You can mention somebody so that they'll get notified. You can also do that just by typing at within the page. And there's a lot of shortcuts now. That's very interesting. I've just noticed, sorry, this summary page is the old format. So you can see down the bottom here, this page can be converted to a new editor. So even Confluence itself is still using the old pages at times, which is a bit weird. So as I was saying before, down on the bottom right corner, this is how you can tell also that it's an old page. And there's an option here to notify watchers. So if I untick that, people won't get an email when I publish the page. So just back to the macros. And this menu, I think, will be slightly different for the new look and feel as well. There's an option here for other macros. And if I click on that, then there's a whole heap that are available. So you can see, if I scroll down, there's a lot there. So there's a lot to play with. maybe in one of the future sessions, we'll just go through all of those individual macros. Maybe in the power users session, so maybe the Thursday one, if everybody's happy, we can dive into the macros and have a look at what you can do with Jira data and stuff then. Okay, so I'll publish that page. All right, so that was spaces. Does anybody want to see some of the other space types, or are you happy just for me to move on? Yep, okay. So you guys, if I give you access to Confluence, then you're more than welcome to create spaces and play around with them that way as well, okay? Okay, now I'll just go back to here.
Okay, so we can still do that, huh? Go in and play around?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So just go back to my agenda. So spaces, pages, templates, macros. So if I go and create a new page, so we've talked about the left-hand menu here. And at the moment, we're just in this ancient circle one, which is the software template. So we've got the overview link at the top. That just takes us kind of the home page for that Confluence space. There's a link to the blog. So if I want to create a new blog post, create that. So you might have updates and announcements for the team. First, ancient. Okay. And so we can either make it full width, the page, or the standard. And we can start typing in some content here. And this is the menu for the new look and feel. So it's a little bit different. So we can change our font size here, heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's go with the heading 1, and we're going to call this, oops, I have to type properly, first heading and second heading. It's pretty similar. And then as you go down, so I'll go heading 4. All thumbs today. You can see that the indentation between is slightly different, as well as the font size being different. And up here, if I wanted to put in, so / is our shortcut if we want to add a macro. And if I type TOC, get table of contents, and we can edit the table of contents. And this is a similar sort of layout for editing any macro. So I want to output that as a list. I can display numbering if it was there. You can set your list style. So we could have a square if you wanted to. And if I refresh this, I'll change my layout over here, or my preview. Heading indent, so you can say, set what your indentation is going to be. You can say what your minimum heading level is. So if I only wanted to see everything from level 4 and refresh that, then I'll change the heading levels. So if I go back to 1, but I don't want level 4, for example, I might just want heading 2, heading 1 and 2. Then you can change what will appear in the list. Or you can include particular headings. I think this is new. So if I go heading, oops, not 7, 4, then it should include that as well. Drum roll. Nope. Okay, I haven't used that before, so I won't mess with it. Not matching regular expression. No, okay. You can exclude particular headings, and there's some other bits and pieces in there as well. So when I save it, it still just looks like this, but it in some macros in the new look and feel, it will give you a preview. And if I publish, then it will auto create that table of contents in there. Okay. And okay, yep, got your message there, Beck, thanks. Okay, Danny, why do we need to associate it with software for this space? Okay, so good question, Danny. So with this template, it's a software project. If you wanted to just do a documentation project that was to capture documentation about a project, then you could do that with one of the documentation templates or something. But for this one, the intent is to integrate it with Jira so that you can, from Jira, you can access pages in the Confluence space, and from Confluence, you can access the Jira data. Really good question. And so let's demonstrate. If I go back to the overview page, we can see now we've got this hierarchy. Ancient Circle, this is our overview page that we're currently looking at. You can see it's highlighted on the left there. And if I want to create a new page under here, let's just go with a blank one for a minute. You can see that it's loading all these other templates. I'm just going to go with a blank one. And let's just call this Jira macro demo. And click on my insert button up here, or I could have just done a /. And I want to select Jira. And I'm going to say where project equals bird, if I can spell properly, and resolution equals unresolved. Order by summary ascending. Okay, so in the power users Jira session, I've still got that recording up on the cloud. It goes through how to create JQL. Okay. And I didn't understand my query. So let me jump into Jira. Just open another window over here for a second. Ancient circle. Ah, ancient bird, ancient circle. There we go. Okay, so with these Jira macros, it'll bring back the results of your query in here. And I'll just bring up the chat window again. Okay, cool. Okay, then we've got an opportunity here to change our display options. So we can either do a total issue count. If I had a query or just a key, so let's see, ANC 71, I'll play with one of these in a minute. If it was just a single Jira issue, then you can choose single issue. Otherwise, it's total issue count, and that'll give us like 73 numbers. Sorry, 73 issues or a table. So let's do both. So let's go with total issue count first. Okay, we've got 73 issues, and it gives us a preview there. And so it just gives me a link. So I might want to have a narrative like a status report or something. And I might say, well, we've got currently 73 bugs. Why would you want to do that? If you click on that, it will take you to Jira and run the query straight away. So anywhere in Confluence where there's a Jira macro and you see a hyperlink like that, you can click on it and it'll run the query in Jira or filter. Then you can save that filter if you wanted to and share it, put it on a dashboard, that sort of thing. You can export the data. You could jump in here and start editing things if you wanted to. Change the the summary or the assignee and all the rest of it. So that's one option. And let's see, ANC 83. If I wanted to, I think in here, with the old look and feel, you used to be able to copy and paste the macros. So they've changed that now, which is a real pain. So if I wanted to, there we go. There's a bug. So I should be able to click on this and hit that pencil and edit it. Wow, Atlassian, that's disappointing. Okay. So let's try it again. Jira. And I'm just going to type in here ANC 83. Oops. Okay, it gives me one. Now my display options, I can do a single issue. I can't do a total issue count because there's only one, but I can still do a table if I wanted to. And we'll just go and run through these parameters down here in a minute. So I'll go insert, and that'll give me a different view. And I can edit that one. If I click on it. Okay, the other thing we used to be able to do was to change hiding the status, sorry, the summary. So you used to be able to just make it that it would show you the key and the status, but not the summary line. So they're changing this functionality all the time. So if I copy that one now, and I'm just going to open a new tab and copy that query. Okay, so here's my JQL, and I'm going to redo this one as a table now. So I'm going to add another Jira filter in. Okay, and you can probably tell I use I've used Jira macros a lot in the past for status reports. They're very, very powerful for all sorts of different pages, and so you can create dashboards in Confluence, which is really cool. You can set your maximum issue sizes, so you can leave it empty if you want to get everything. And I think that still limits to 1,000, but you can paginate through. So if I wanted to set that to 20, then you get the option to scroll through your pages. Okay, Paul, can you step through again to display the JQL? Yes. So to obtain the JQL, or just what I've got up here now?
Paul, what I was just getting at is you jumped from actually the Confluence page and then to displaying the JQL. I kind of missed that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. All right. So let me just insert this for a second. So this macro, and again, it gives you a preview. If let's just go through that again. So if I click on the plus button and I insert a Jira, okay.
Yeah.
Then it will bring this one up. So this is where I insert the JQL. And I could just make that project equals ANC. Right, so you type your JQL in here. One difference is in Jira, you've got autocomplete for JQL, whereas in Confluence under this macro, you don't. So one tip would be perhaps build up your query in Jira. So if it was, honestly, remember when we were looking at JQL, we had these two different views, right? So there's the basic view, or there's switching to JQL.
Okay.
And this used to say switch to advanced. Now they've changed it to switch to JQL. So that's another new change as well. So there's, you can switch to JQL. So you can build up your query this way. So you can say ancient circle project. Yeah, I want to get it from ancient furniture as well, for example. And I want to just bring back bugs and let's see, stories and tasks and not the rest. Right. And it's refining this result as we go. And I want to, just going to get things that are in progress and all the signees. Now, if I jump back to JQL, it's built the query out for me. And now I can copy that. Oops. And go back to Confluence. And I can paste that in here. And it runs that query.
So
Okay.
when you actually keep, and is that persistent? So in Confluence, is the JQL persistent? And because that's what I was asking. I think you went from the actual page, rendered page, flip back to, you said, oh, and here's our JQL. That's what I kind of missed.
Oh, got it. Yes, sorry, that was a bit too quick. Okay, yes. So these macros, so once we publish our page, then that macro will persist and the data persists. And this is where the really powerful part comes in, right? I've saved the page and I've got that configured macro in there, but it's pulling the data back real time. So for example, ANC 30, so this is only showing me unresolved ones. ANC 30, if I change that and I close it, and so that's resolved. So it's in Jira. Now if I go back to Confluence and I scroll down to the bottom and I hit the refresh button, then that one's gone. ANC 30 is no longer in the list. So this is a really awesome thing about it, is that it's pulling that data from Jira Live, which is really cool. And it's made a liar out of me. It used to have pagination down the bottom here, but now it doesn't. So you can see the first 20, or you can run the query in Jira and jump into Jira to see the rest. So if I modify this now So I edit the page, and then I have to edit the macro, right? So it's sort of a two-step process. If I edit the macro, and you can see this JQL is still there, the JQL that I put in before. I can change the JQL if I wanted to. I could put in here and issue type equals task and resolution equals unresolved. And I've got none. Okay, get rid of that. That's weird. It should have brought back more. So instead of 20, oh yeah, this part here, displaying the first 20 view all, that's just saying what it's brought back in here. I'll go display options and change that. Let's make that 100. Then the other parts that I wanted to show quickly was the columns down the bottom here. So we've got key, summary. So key is that unique identifier. Summary is the short description or summary of the issue. Issue type, whether it's task, story, etc. The created date, the updated date, the due date, the assignee, the reporter, so who created the issue, its priority, its current status, and its resolution. Now I'm going to get rid of resolution because this is something that I've already, now I'm bringing back only the unresolved ones. I can either hit the backspace to get rid of those, or you can click on the little X here. Now, one caveat here, if I want, I want to add back in the updated date. You see when I click on this, it goes back to the end. So if I wanted to put updated back in here and have that column back up in these parts, I don't think I can drag and click that, then I would have to actually remove everything that comes after it again and put it back in again. So it's a little bit clunky that way. So once you've got my suggestion would be set up the filter the way that you want it to be and then copy and paste it. If you copy and paste 100 times and then you got it, and I've done this, if you copy and paste 100 times and then you've got to go and modify the columns for all, it's a pain. But being able to copy and paste filters and just modify the query a little bit is really powerful. You might use that, for example, with a risk register. You might have risks, assumptions, dependencies, issues, etc., and have the same columns to display perhaps, but a different query for each one. So the first query might be risks, second one might be issues, etc. So it's really, really powerful. And you can also embed your filter results, or your Jira results, inside another macro. So you might have an information panel, which might be blue. You might have an alert panel that might be red. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do there. And I'd encourage you guys to log in and play around with that. So I'll set you up. Okay, you can also add more columns as well. So, and these can be custom fields or out of the box fields as well. So it could be, so time zone. I think we set that up for the Meetup project. Last viewed watches, for example, is one. And images, there's the current sprint, story points, epic link, all sorts of different things. I'll click on epic link and go insert, and I'll refresh the data. Drum roll. Now if I go publish, we've got our data in there. I'll between now and the next meetup, I'll find a sample page that I've set up and used previously for status reports and that sort of thing. I'll see if I've still got one, and I can show that next time if that's helpful for people. We've just got 5 minutes left. I know some have meetings at 1 o'clock, so they need to drop off. Has anybody got any questions, or is there anything that you'd like to see again that we've gone through today so far?
Oh, I know that the templates, they've added so many more. Are they easy to go in and edit and critique and make it your own, or is there some challenges?
Yeah, for sure. So do you mean modifying the template itself, or do you mean if you use a template to create a page, then modifying the page?
Like if one template's already made and I want to go in and add another column or something, can we do that? Or you have to pretty much use the template as it's built?
I think,
Or
now I
do you
haven't
know?
looked, yeah,
I
I
can
haven't looked
play
at
with
this.
it. Yeah, I can play with
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So trying to go and play with it. Okay, global templates. And okay, career development plan. If I wanted to edit that template. So this is a system administrator can do this. Yeah, so career development plan, for example, if I wanted to add another column to that table, let's call this Linda's column. And we save that one. So this is career development plan. Saving that. Now, if I go back to my Jira macro demo page, and I'll create another page under that one. When you create a page, it will by default create it as a child of the page that you're currently looking at as well.
Okay.
So you can see here, parent, Jira macro demo, and you can move pages. So let's see if we can get a career. And I'm going to show more career development plan. Create that one. So now we've got Linda's column appearing in that template. And if I want to add one, so once you populate a page from a template or create a page from a template, then you can go Paul's column, for example, and you can modify these pages to your heart's content. You can knock out page sections. You can do whatever you like. Yep. So
Okay.
that's
That's
really
great
cool.
because Confluence is great with coaching. You know, I mean, the Confluence and Jira are like peanut butter and jelly. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
It's
Okay.
yeah, really powerful. No worries. All right, so just a couple of minutes left. Thanks, Linda. That was a really good question. Any other questions? No worries. All right. Anybody have to go at 1 o'clock or shortly? Ignacio, have you got a meeting? Yeah, you have. Okay, cool. Jaya, welcome, Jaya. I know you had some trouble logging in. I think Jaya's there. Yep. Jaya had some trouble logging in. Linda, can I just ask you, have you tried logging into the that Meetup user account from overseas? Because I know Jaya had some trouble logging in.
I had some trouble with that too.
Okay. All right, cool. No worries. So we'll do the individual
There's 2
subscriptions
of us.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No worries. Okay. And Jaya, yep. So I've got your email as well. Yeah, cool. All right, no worries. So I'll set you all up with your individual logins to Jira and Confluence. Depending on how many I get, it might either be that demo site, so the one we're looking at here, or demo 1. But either way, it'll be in one of those instances. Okay. No worries. And sorry that's been a bit of a hassle. All right. No worries. If there's no other questions, then we might wrap it up there. I'll just save my chat before we go. And thank you very much. The recording will be up on the Zoom cloud soon, and I'll share the link to the recording. And yeah, I'd encourage you to jump in, have a play around. I'll let you know as soon as I've set you up in Jira. I'll do that shortly. And please ask any questions on Slack if you want to, or message me directly. And thank you very much for your ongoing support and interest.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Paul. It
Paul.
was great.
Thank you.
Paul. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks heaps, guys. Okay.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
You too. All right. Okay. See you guys. Bye.